All right. We are back in play. America's Voice Now, that's what you're listening to. This is our final episode this morning, or our final segment, and we're going to cover the issues of this interview with Michael Schur. He is a CIA analyst, and this is from the Next News Network. I happen to like these guys. They do some very, very interesting interviews. And you'd find it interesting, I think, if you understood, the depth of what some of these guys know in terms of what we're talking about CIA here. This is a guy who left the CIA, I think it was around 2004 or something. And this is a very, very interesting article. But before we get into that, I want to talk about this issue of Rand Paul, storming out of a hearing with John Kerry, because this is kind of interesting. Just stick with me and listen to this. The argument here is between Rand Paul and John Kerry.
The two just are not similar.
Senator Paul.
Thank you for coming today. It's not often that I get to compliment the president. I can probably count the number of times maybe on one hand. But when I first heard that the president was going to come to Congress, boy, was I pleasantly surprised. I was proud that he was my president. I didn't vote for him, and I still am opposed to him quite a few times. But I was proud that he did this. And I was just about to stand on my feet and clap and give him a standing ovation. And then I heard, but if I lose the vote, I'll probably go ahead and do the bombing anyway. And so that does concern me. I want to be proud of the president, but every time I'm just about there, then I get worried that really he doesn't mean it, that he's going to sort of obey the Constitution if he wins. So I heard Secretary Kerry say, if we win, sure. But if we lose, what? I mean, make me proud today, Secretary Kerry. Stand up for us and say, you're going to obey the Constitution, and if we vote you down, which is unlikely, by the way, but if we do, you would go with what the people say through their Congress, and you wouldn't go forward with a war that your Congress votes against. Can you give me a better answer, Secretary Kerry?
Wow, that's a heck of a statement. I mean, that is just... Talk about calling him out on camera, folks. There's some things I don't like about Rand Paul, but I will say one thing. There are a couple of true patriots left up there, and, I won't give anybody a blanket endorsement about anything these days because there's just way too much fraud and capitulation to different positions and coercion up there. But I will say that guys like Mike Lee and Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, these guys are breaking the mold of what you think of the average politician these days. And, I'm almost inclined to give them some credit that I hope they're due for, but it'll remain to be seen. But, hearing something like that on a national, this isn't a private hearing that's just done between two people. This is a televised hearing, right? So hang on.
I can't give you a different answer than the one I gave you. I don't know what the president's decision is, but I will tell you this. It ought to make you proud because he still has the constitutional authority, and he would be in keeping with the Constitution.
Well, I disagree with you there. I don't believe he has the constitutional authority. I think Congress has this. Madison was very explicit. When he wrote the Federalist Papers, he wrote that history supposes, or the Constitution supposes what history demonstrates, that the executive is the branch most likely to go to war, and therefore the Constitution vested that power in the Congress. It's explicit and runs throughout all of Madison's writings. This power is a congressional power, and it is not an executive power. They didn't say big war, small war. They didn't say boots on the ground, not boots on the ground. They said declare war. Ask the people on the ships launching the missiles whether they're involved with war or not. If we do not say that the Constitution applies, if we do not say explicitly that we will abide by this vote, you're making a joke of us. You're making us into theater. And so we play constitutional theater for the president. If this is real, you will abide by the verdict of Congress. You're probably going to win. Just go ahead and say it's real, and let's have a real debate in this country and not a meaningless debate that in the end you lose and you say, oh, well, we had the authority anyway. We're going to go ahead and go to war anyway. A couple of items.
Senator, I assure you there's nothing meaningless, and there is everything real.
Only if you adhere to what we vote on. Only if our vote makes a difference. Only if our vote is binding is it meaningful.
And I will leave to the man who was elected to be President of the United States the responsibility for telling you what his decision is if and when that moment came. But the president intends to win this vote, and he's not going to make prior announcements.
We've had a lot of discussion about, whether or not we're going to make the world safer with this. Somehow we're going to have less chemical weapons. But I think that's an open question. And I think it's conjecture at best. You can say, oh, well, we think Assad will be less likely to launch chemical weapons after this. We may be able to degrade his capacity somewhat. He's got 1,000 tons. We're going to wipe it out. Most reports I hear say we're not even probably going to directly bomb chemical weapons because of what might happen to the surrounding population. So my guess is he still will have the ability. Most people say Assad acted very illogically. Why would he release chemical weapons on his own people when it brought the anger and enmity of the entire world? So he's already acting irrationally or illogically. Now we're going to deter him, and he's going to act in a rational manner. I think it's equally likely that he either does it again or he doesn't do it. I don't think you can say for certain which is better. I don't know that we can say that by attacking them, he's not going to launch another chemical attack. Will the region, I got a few of them, then I'll stop. Will the region be more stable or less stable? We all say we want stability in the Middle East, and stability in the Middle East is a national interest for our country. Will it be more stable or less stable? I frankly think there are equal arguments on both sides of that. Will Israel be more likely to suffer an attack on them, a gas attack or otherwise, or less likely? I think there's a valid argument for saying they'll be more likely to suffer an attack if we do this. Will Russia be more likely or less likely to supply more arms or get more heavily involved in this? I think there's a valid argument that they may become more likely to be involved. Iran, more likely or less likely to be involved with this? If Iran gets involved, more likely or less likely that Israel launches a reprisal attack on Iran? There are all kinds of unknowns that I can't tell you absolutely the answer, and neither can you. But I think there's a reasonable argument that the world may be less stable because of this, and that it may not deter any chemical weapons attack. So what I would ask is, how are we to know? How are we to go home? I haven't had one person come up to me and say they're for this war. Not one person. We get calls by the thousands. Nobody's calling in favor of this war. I didn't meet one. I was home all month. I went to 40 cities. I didn't have one person come up and say, do they all agree it's a horrendous thing? Yes, we all agree that chemical attack's a horrendous thing, but people are not excited about getting involved. They also don't think it's going to work. And they're skeptical of what will occur with this. But I'd appreciate your response and try to reassure the rest of us, one, that the vote is meaningful and valid, that you'd adhere to it, and also that you're convinced that all of these different items will be better, not worse, by this attack.
Well, Senator, I'd be very happy to do that. Will Israel be more likely to suffer an attack, or will they be safer? Will they be less safe? I can make it crystal clear to you that Israel will be less safe unless the United States takes this action. Iran and Hezbollah are two of the three biggest allies of Assad. And Iran and Hezbollah are the two single biggest enemies of Israel. So if Iran and Hezbollah are advantaged by the United States not curbing Assad's use of chemical weapons, there is a much greater likelihood that at some point down the road, Hezbollah, who has been one of the principal reasons for a change in the situation on the ground, will have access to these weapons of mass destruction.
You know, that's an absolute lie. First of all, they already have access to these weapons of mass destruction. They have them because they came from Iraq before Saddam Hussein fell, because we gave them months and months and months of preparation time to do so. And, you know, not for nothing, but if we're in a proxy war here on Israel's behalf, I got a problem with that, all right? I don't want young American men, and I don't want our treasure, our treasure in our youth, and our treasure in our blood, nor our treasure in our treasury, to go to, you know, some proposed early interim strike against Syria under the argument that at some point in time they may threaten Israel. The real truth is, Kerry knows exactly why we're going there. We want Iran to jump into this fray, because if Iran jumps into this fray, we then have an opportunity to say, aha, we can go after them, and we can go after them from the nuclear weapons perspective, when the international community won't give us the authority to do that. And this is really a backdoor entry into that. Make no mistake about it, and you'll understand why when you listen to his justifications.
And Israel will for certain be less secure.
But I would also argue that it would be more likely that Hezbollah will attack because of this attack in response.
And Israel feels quite confident of its ability to deal with Hezbollah if they were to do so. You will notice that Israel has on several occasions in the last year seen fit to deal with threats to its security because of what's in Syria, and not once has Assad responded to that to date. I think there are a bunch of things we should talk about in a classified session, but let me just make it very clear to you that, you ask these questions, will this or that be more likely?
Did you hear that statement? I think there's a bunch of things we should talk about in a classified session. I got to tell you, this nonsense about every time that there's an issue that they don't want to be caught saying on camera and on tape needs to be dragged into a classified session. When we're talking about the economic and the political future of the United States, not to mention the lives of literally tens of thousands of American soldiers, I'm sorry. I've had it up to here with the concept of secret this and secret that and classified this and classified that. Nobody's entitled to know anything until after we've made our decision. And even then, we classify that decision because we can't tell you why, because it's going to endanger the boots on the ground that we've already decided to send in there. You know what? It's a bunch of nonsense. This is nothing more than an excuse for them to get each other in a side room and get off camera and say, you know the real truth, and here's why you're going to do what we tell you to do, because you're under coercion, and if you don't do that, whatever the case may be. That's what really happens in those classified sessions. What they do is they get a scumbag like John Boehner, and they say to him, Boehner, you're going to do what we tell you to do, and if you don't, we're going after you for your family, we're going after you for this criminal indictment we have on you for some dirty deal you've done, or these photographs that we took of you with a cocaine straw up your nose, or the photos we took of you with somebody who ain't your wife. That's what's going to get published. I'm telling you, that's what really happens in a classified session. The rest of this crap is a bunch of nonsense. All it is a diffusionary tactic.
To happen or not likely to happen. If the United States of America doesn't do this, Senator, is it more or less likely that Assad does it again? You want to answer that question?
I don't think it's known. I don't think
is
it's
it more or less likely that he does it again?
You have the attack. I think it's unknown whether it's more or less likely whether you have the attack.
Senator, it's not unknown. If the United States of America doesn't hold him accountable on this with our allies and friends, it's a guarantee Assad will do it again. A guarantee. And I urge you to go to the classified briefing and learn that. Secondly, let me just point out to you that with respect to this question of Americans wanting to go to war, you got three people here who have been to war. You got John McCain, who's been to war. There's not one of us who doesn't understand what going to war means, and we don't want to go to war.
No, you don't want to go to war, because the last time you were in war, you threw your own mates under the bus.
We don't believe we are going to war in the classic sense of taking American troops and America to war. The president is asking for the authority to do a limited action.
That's not what the administration's request said. I read it, and it is so broad and so open-ended he could do almost anything for any limited period, for an unlimited period of time. There is no limitation on the proposal that he's put before Congress.
That will degrade the capacity of a tyrant who has been using chemical weapons to kill his own people.
But I think by doing so, you announce...
It's limited.
By doing so, you announce in advance that your goal is not winning.
But that's not...
And I think the last 50 years of secretaries of defense would say,
Senator,
if your goal is not to win, you shouldn't be involved.
Do you want to go to war in Syria? Of course not. Everybody, 100% of Americans will say no. We say no. We don't want to go to war in Syria either. It's not what we're here to ask. The president is not asking you to go to war. He's not asking you to declare war. He's not asking you to send one American troop to war. He's simply saying we need to take an action that can degrade the capacity of a man who's been willing to kill his own people by breaking a nearly 100-year-old prohibition. And will we stand up and be counted to say we won't do that? That's not, I just don't consider that going to war in the classic sense of coming to Congress and asking for a declaration of war and training troops and sending people abroad and putting young Americans in harm's way. That's not what the president is asking for here.
So here's the real question. If we're not going to war, what exactly then is the purpose of this? Let's just take for a moment and throw this out there. Let's say that we do go over there and we start dropping cruise missiles, and the goal is to eliminate the chemical weapons. Well, first of all, we don't even know where they are. I mean, we have some ideas, but we don't know exactly where they are. And secondarily, this is not the kind of thing that you can kill with a cruise missile, because if you blow up those chemical weapons stores, you release the chemical weapon. So we could, in fact, actually be creating an entirely new scenario that's far worse than what Assad ever did. Secondarily, the only way to actually get those and to put them under command and control so that they're taken out of Assad's hands is to have physical boots on the ground. And so I don't care what Kerry says, this is the plausibly deniable excuse that they're going to use to get the permission to go there. And then the next one that they're going to come back for is to say, well, in order to get those weapons and put them under lock and key, we've got to have people on the ground to go do it.
Here. General, do you want to speak of that, all to that?
No, not really, Secretary. Thank you for offering.
I'd pull the rug out from under me.
Great. Thank you to all of you. This has been a good discussion.
So there's your scenario where the Dempsey, that's the guy who says he doesn't know why we're going over there. I mentioned that in one of our earlier sessions. He says, look, I really don't even have anything to say. I mean, he doesn't have anything to say. This whole thing is a farce, and everybody knows it. And the only thing Kerry kept reiterating is that we should go into a closed session and discuss this offline. Hey, you know what? Closed sessions offline are never in the best interest of the American people. I can tell you that. Trust me when I tell you that the conversations that they have offline, while they may be able to share some information that they don't want publicly known, we're only talking about whether or not, the true implications of this are affecting U.S. interests. And I can tell you right now that the only U.S. interest that this issue affects has absolutely nothing to do with the United States domestically. It has everything to do with Israel. Now, I get it that if Israel gets attacked, it's our obligation to go jump in there and support them and defend them. But I can also tell you this. If Israel were attacked by Hezbollah or Iran or Libya, or Syria, that at that point, one, you would have a raft of people coming forth from both the House and the Senate who would be supporting it. You would have a lot more of American grassroots people supporting it, and you would probably have international community support. So I disbelieve exactly what he's saying. He's saying that this has to be preemptive. Hey, you know what? This is like pre-crime. Okay? So what are you trying to tell me? That because somebody has once committed a crime in their lives, we should go in there and attack them and take them and put them in prison on the off chance that they may commit a crime again? I'll tell you right now. Guys, what we're looking at here is a complete a whitewash of what's really happening. I wanted to play you this interview with Michael Schur, because this guy is really sharp, and we're not going to have the time to do it this morning because I wanted you to hear that interchange between Kerry and I can play a portion of it. But Gary Franchi, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, from Next News Network is interviewing Michael Schur. And I'll tell you what, Schur's got some very, very interesting things to say, and he's not sitting here, trying to be politically correct about it, right? So it's a worthwhile interview. I would strongly encourage you to get to it. It's on our Facebook page, and it's on our website. You can see it at americasvoicenow.org, and it's in the news section that's down about midway down. And then the other area that you can see it would be going onto our Facebook page. Now, even if you're not a Facebook subscriber, you can still get onto our Facebook page, and you can see things that we post up there. You may not necessarily be able to comment, you can't share, and things like that, but you're free to click through and read these stories. You're free to read our interpretations on them and my commentaries on them. You're free to watch a video that's up there. So you don't have to be a registered Facebook user. I get why a lot of folks aren't. Frankly, if it weren't for the fact that I did this radio show, I wouldn't have a Facebook page. And that's the truth. So, but at the flip side of the fence is that, I need this to help spread the word and get educated folks out there, and that's what we're here to do. So, yes, I'm sticking my head up above the rest of the sheeple, and I'm likely to get it lopped off some one of these days. But the simple truth is that's the risk I've got to take, right? That's my job as to step up and play a leadership role, just like your job is to step up and play a leadership role. Each of us does it in our own way. So what I would encourage you to do is get onto our Facebook page and or our website and find this article and watch this video. It's about a 20-minute interview, but I got to tell you, it is so eye-opening and so educational for you to understand the true goings-on and the nature of what we've talked about, some of the things that we've talked about here today, that it really is very, very worthwhile to watch. And so I'm strongly encouraging you to do that. You can get to our Facebook page very easily. All you have to do is type in facebook.com, then put in the /. That's the one right underneath the question mark. After that, type in the words America's Voice Now, all one string. So it's facebook.com / America's Voice Now. You will immediately jump to our Facebook page. You will see that we post up probably anywhere between 10 and 25 stories a day up there. There are all kinds of comments from listeners and folks who follow the program. And if you are a Facebook user, please hit the like button. That enables us to help to expand and share our message and our word with the rest of America. We are almost at 1,000 likes on our Facebook page, which, guys, a couple short months ago, we were at 400. So we have really made some great strides, and I encourage you to please participate and help us share the word. When you like the page, what it does is it enables us to, when we post something new, it goes and gets shared on your timeline as well, so that people who are, friends or followers of yours can also see it. And so we encourage you to do that. It helps us to expand our presence and our knowledge and our information on all of these issues that are out there. And it's really it's an incredible medium that we have to take advantage of because frankly, it's the only way that we can help to expand our listenership base without actually being on every station in the country, right? So we're on currently about 7 or 8 stations right now. We are working to get back on the air in our West Plains area. I do want to update you real quickly. I've only got a minute and a half left, but I want to update you on what we're doing with our video studio. We are in the process, as we speak right now, of developing and building a video studio. We've received some help from an organization that has a studio that they're going to enable us to use. And our goal is to build and develop this website that will give you not only America's Voice Now streaming video, but also the streaming video from the rest of our friends over at the Liberty News Network. That would be, there's about 8 hosts altogether. And the goal is for each of us to be streaming our shows so you can jump on there and use that as a launching place where you can catch on not only America's Voice Now, but many other shows as well. All streaming video, all radio-hosted programs that are broadcast around the country. In addition to that, our goal is to, in short order, be able to actually provide a newscasted type format where we will have literal reporters doing stories. We will have a nightly news report that will talk about the day's events. All news that is politically oriented, no fluff, no nonsense, no messing around. There's not going to talk about the dog who fell down the well or the horse that got, that broke its leg in a gopher hole. We're only going to talk about those stories that are applicable to our political environment and situation because time, ladies and gentlemen, is very, very short. We need your help. We need your assistance. We need your support. If there's any way that you can help us to accomplish this, building a studio is not an inexpensive proposition. We've had a lot of support from our listeners in terms of building this studio for radio broadcasting, but as we migrate into this video studio, we certainly need your help. Please join us and support our program. On our website, you can go to americasvoicenow.org, and you can either become a monthly sponsor or you become a one-time sponsor. Anything that you can donate, from the widow's mite on up to significant assistance, would be greatly appreciated. If you'd like to talk to me further about it, you can reach me by sending an email to mike@americasvoicenow.org. That's mike@americasvoicenow.org. We need volunteers also. If you have technical skills, web development skills, if you have the ability to work with audio and video files, we need some assistance in that area. But we really need some assistance financially, and you can certainly help in that regard. Please join us at americasvoicenow.org, and we will continue to dispel the propaganda that's fed to you. Thank you very much. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning.